Welcome to Michael's guest. Tonight we have Linus Kvarnhammar here.
Thank you.
Really nice. He's a good friend of mine. We have known each other for many years now.
Yeah, since 2006, I think.
Yep. So back in the days you were code monkey at a consultancy company here in Malmö.
Yeah, Dotway, that then later turned into J-Way.
Yeah, that was commercial. I tried to stay out of commercials for companies. So yeah.
J-Way is a really good company. So.
But yeah, and he opted out anyway. So right.
Yeah.
So but back in the days you were just a programmer. Yeah.
Yeah. I worked 5 years as a .NET developer for J-Way.
Yep. And was it fun?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Right. You learn a lot?
Yeah, I learned a lot. It was my first job as a programmer and also my last. 2011, I went into another job doing development in a security company, and that's where I turned over to security.
Right.
I realized that
that was your thing.
I mean, it's cool. It's nice building stuff, but it's more fun breaking it, I think.
All right.
So the development assignments were long and sitting a long time at the same customer building stuff, and that could be interesting, but doing pen testing, hacking stuff is like 1 week here, 1 week there, meet a lot of different people, different customers, different environments. Challenging because you have to know about operating systems, networks, applications, and the security in each layer, kind of.
Right.
Yeah, so I got hooked on that 2011.
Okay. All right. So you became something. It's called White Hat Hacker.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm the black hat, not hacker.
Yeah.
Yeah. We forgot one thing before we start.
Mm.
We should have introduced the wine.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's also an important part in this interview session. So you recommend me to buy this one?
Yeah.
Fucking expensive wine, by the way. So,
yeah. My cousin Philip Bibermus is his company's name. He's importing wine, but not this one. But he's also a sommelier.
All right.
And as a sommelier, he recommended this wine to me a year ago or something. It's Tuscany wine, Brunello di Montalcino. He said, according to him, it's one of Italy's best wines. One of them, according to him, I guess. But
yep.
It's a really good wine. It's a Sangiovese grape.
All right.
That's
Should we taste it?
I think so.
All right. Let's have a
cheers.
Cheers. We have the pling, so right, like that. So we can. All right. Back to the White Hat Hacker. So Linus, for you that don't know him, he has just recently been in a TV series at SVT. It's called Hacked, or in Swedish Hackad. It was 6 episodes, and they hacked private persons, companies, organizations, and so on. And was it fun to do that?
It was a lot of fun. But I can tell you in the beginning when I got the question, do you want to... Because I early on was involved in like planning, but when they were trying the idea out, they had a meeting with me, and I said they were talking about doing a TV series on övervakat land, the surveillance society. So I think they were pretty much into like what does Facebook know about you, Google, Microsoft, stuff like that, like the privacy aspect of cyber, so to speak. And I told them that yeah, that could be interesting, but I hack companies. That's what I can do, and if you're interested in that, I can help you out. And then when I think they talked to more people. I recommended some people, and then they came back and said we have like an idea, and it's about hacking people and companies. Do you want to be in it? And I was like, my first instinct says no. I don't want to be on TV. It's not for me. But then I thought like, this is a pretty good opportunity to do something that is new and cool. And it would also be pretty cool if my kids could see me on SVT Play.
All right.
That was one of those things. I mean, can I say no to that? Can I represent my line of business?
Yeah.
And I think I can. So I said yes. And yeah, and we were, for you who have seen it, we have four hackers.
Yep.
And yeah, we're having a lot of fun, but we're also under a lot of pressure.
You can see that in this TV series. You have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
You can see that all the time. So.
And there's also, of course, a lot of stuff that is cut from it.
Yep.
Where we swear, where we joke.
One thing I was thinking about when I was watching the TV series, you have a certain lingo.
Mm-hmm.
You're using some words which is not familiar with the common man, so to say.
Yeah. I think we try to stay away from it as much as possible, and I also think we learned during the episodes how to talk more like for the regular person. But is there something in particular?
No. It just was one overall comment on the how you talk to each other.
Yeah, of course we must talk to each other so we can communicate to each other.
Of course.
We should do this, we should do that.
Yeah.
But it was pretty interesting how we, as we went along, we created the ideas that then became the program.
And there were also lots of English expressions you used.
Yeah.
Like IT is English is the dominant language. So
yeah, it is, and a lot of the tools, techniques, and what we use has English names. So.
Yeah. So before this this interview, we talked about the differences between a black hat hacker and a white hat hacker. So a good guy or a bad guy. So are you doing the same thing? I mean, practically. I mean, not for the same purpose, but.
Yeah, I think pretty much. I'd say, especially ransomware. I mean, a ransomware attack involves getting into a company on the inside, hacking an employee via phishing, for instance, and then attacking the internal network, taking over the infrastructure.
Yep.
And that's exactly what we do when we penetration test as well. And then, of course, the last step for the ransomware attacker is not what we are doing, but they are encrypting everything, destroying data, and then asking for money. So yeah, it's the skill set is pretty much the same, but I think also there are a lot of cyber criminals that would never get a job in our industry because of incompetency. Nice. So you can be malicious and use techniques and tools that you can find online pretty easily, and you can use them and cause quite some harm, I think. But that's not enough skill to get a job. All right. If you know what I mean.
No, not exactly. You have to. So what's the difference? What do you mean? Not enough skills. So.
No, but let's say there was had a customer recently who we helped, where some guy, maybe 18 years old, he downloaded leaked databases, like hacked databases or emails and passwords that have been leaked, and then he just tried them out to the site en masse, like a script. Used a script to try all the logins he could, like millions, and then he got some accounts. So that's users who have used the same password in many in many websites.
All right.
So by downloading leaked databases, he could just reuse those and get valid accounts.
All right.
So
And just typing a script is not hard.
exactly. So he's
So-
using scripts that someone else has built,
Yeah.
and he's downloading databases from the internet on some shady websites, databases that we also have that we use for constructive work or when we hack. But he used that to actually break into regular people's accounts.
Yep.
An example could be, that was not the case here, but it could be Spotify, for instance. So let's say if you had your password was Michael, you log in was your email and you had password Michael, and I can see that in a leaked database.
Yep.
If I then try your email and your password to Spotify,
Yep.
with Spotify, and it works, then I've stolen your Spotify account.
Yep.
So then he could do that in a large scale and then sell Spotify accounts, for instance.
Right.
And one of my customers had that issue.
Not with Spotify though.
No, not Spotify.
No.
That was just an example.
But yeah.
But then we helped the customer sort this out. We found out who the guy was, and we presented his head on a plate to the police.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
All right.
But that's a typical. I mean, and we could see that he's been doing this for years to different companies. We could see that on online forums.
Right.
But this guy would never get a job because his only skill is using tools.
Copy paste.
Yeah, kind of, and finding out where weaknesses in different systems are, like not weaknesses that are skilled, but
But it happens that
a trickster.
But it happens that black hat hackers get a job. Some years ago in Sweden, there were a guy up north in Sweden, but that was just a teenager, and he hacked the municipality's website or so they offer him a job instead, because he just did it because he asked himself, could I do this?
Yeah.
And wow.
Yeah, but I think that was probably more common back in the day, I would guess. But it's not unreasonable. I mean, there's a gray area also here. For instance, I don't want to mention the authority, but there's a Swedish authority where I had reason to use their website recently, like within a year.
Yep.
And just by using it, I could see that they probably have a security issue here. So I just changed a few numbers, and then I could see other people's data.
All right.
Because if you just look at the URL and look at the traffic going to the web server, and you see that there's a number, and you just try to change to another number, it should be access denied. But I got some other person's data back.
Oh shit.
Yes. So I called them up, I think, to try to figure out who I should report this to. And I got the message through to the right person, and they called me back a week later and thanked me a lot and said they've fixed it. There you could say that. Not really grey, but I mean, I wasn't assigned to do that.
No.
No one had told me. I didn't have permission.
No.
But I found a bug and I reported it.
Yep.
That's kind of in the grey area, maybe. And that way, I think, especially back in the days where it was really hard to find this competency like publicly available. Who knows about security? Like 15 years ago, it was probably hard to find a company that could do that. So if you would find a thing like this, maybe you would get offered a job.
Yeah.
Especially if you're young and
Yep.
interested in looking for a job. Yeah.
Security has been quite popular among developers. I see that at Full Cafe. When we have talks about security, there are loads of people that shows up. But it hasn't been like that. I mean, I think only like the last 5 years-ish, I think, it became a thing. So, of course, it always has been a thing, but it has been addressed to many people, and this is super important.
Yeah.
Why? What happened? I mean, you've been in the
No.
for like 10 years
Yeah.
ish, and have you noticed that that it has become more?
Absolutely. I mean, I think now everyone can attest to the importance of digital and cybersecurity just by watching the news.
Yeah.
But before it was maybe security when it comes to compliance, it's pretty boring. And I think a lot of developers before maybe encountered cybersecurity when it comes to compliance. We need to comply with this certification to make this system, and then it becomes pretty boring.
Yeah.
But if someone completely hacks your website that you built and you're a developer, you're pretty probably interested in fixing it and making it good with good security. So I think the more cool hacks and pen testing we've seen in the business or in the development business, I think that probably increased interest for security, I would assume, because it's I mean, developers respect and appreciate quality code and quality software, and if you can hack a piece of software, it's not quality. So I think if you show that this can be hacked, abused technically, I think that triggers a lot of developers. Don't you think so?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that triggers some kind of interest.
Yep.
I often see that the people on, like, not low level, I mean the people working with IT, like developers and IT pros, they want their systems to be secure.
Yeah.
The challenge is, how do we get the budget?
Yeah.
How do we get the funding? How can I focus? I'm interested in security, maybe, I'm a developer, but I want to work with this much more.
Yeah.
How can I get that permission from the management?
Yeah. But there should be development tools for it to make it easy to make it more secure.
Yeah.
Or is it?
Yeah, I mean,
Is there
tooling is
built-
built all the time, I guess. But if you build away one problem,
Yeah.
then that problem is solved.
Yeah.
Then you're dealing with the next problem.
All right.
So,
So you mean it never ends, or?
no, I don't think so. And if you invent new technologies, then those technologies will have some issues that need to be dealt with.
Yep.
I think that's. I think you could probably build away certain things, but that doesn't mean that cybersecurity goes away as a field. If you know what I mean. I'm thinking like SQL injection, to get a little bit technical, but if back 20 years ago, 10 years ago, it was pretty common with SQL injection, which means that if you build your SQL queries in a insecure way, user input in a website could actually become SQL code.
Drop
Yeah.
database.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So instead of when you write your name in a text box, you could add drop table users, and it actually dropped the users table.
Yeah.
That problem should basically be solved because it's been around for so long. Not that it is, but pretty much.
All right.
Because
Pretty much. All right.
for those who are developers, like ORMs, object relational mappers, and stuff like that abstract away the SQL code,
Oh, yeah.
should kind of fix that. But we still see it every now and then. But that's, I guess, an example of technical vulnerability that is pretty much solved in a modern environment. But then you add cloud environments.
Yep.
Then you add new cloud-related security issues. So I don't think it will stop. I don't think we will, not in my lifetime, say cybersecurity is not an issue. We don't
All
need
right.
a CISO.
So you will never retire, Linus.
No.
You will go on until the next millennia, more or less.
I will die at my keyboard.
Okay. Poor life. We need to get this guy a proper life, I think. So the wine is part of life.
It is?
Yep.
Cheers.
Yes, the good part. But I was thinking about this ransomware shit that happens all over the world, and maybe this is a stupid question, but I think there is no stupid questions. There are only stupid answers. So it's up to you now.
I'll make my best. Try my best.
All right. So this is a big thing, and it's devastating for many companies if they are being ransomed, and also private persons, of course. But isn't there a way to protect you? And I'm not talking about just some virus software or some. Can't there be a way to protect your data in a way that it's not possible for someone from the outside going into your computer or your system and just
Yeah, but basically that is what cybersecurity is, right? It's protecting your data and processes. So from both manipulation, from destruction, from eavesdropping. I mean, you might have data that you want to keep secret, but then you might have data that you don't care about secrecy, but you care about its integrity. So security is about making sure that these things are in place. Confidentiality, integrity, and availability.
Yeah, but if someone...
So what your question is basically, can't we make our digital life secure? Because that's what they're attacking.
If I click on the wrong link, couldn't there be a way that even if I click on it, there will be some security that blocks this malicious attack?
Yeah, I think it's a very good question, and it's the layered approach to security that we need to think about.
All right.
You could say onion model, you could say defense in depth, layered defense.
Yeah.
So if you would take a house as a analogy, let's say you have a fence.
Yep.
Maybe not in a regular Swedish house, but some countries and properties have a fence, and then you have your perimeter in the house, like the external doors, and then you maybe have a safe. There you have 3 layers of security.
Yeah.
So in cyber security, we need to think in the same way. And for a long time, and still today in many companies, you're thinking about the perimeter, the firewall, or the laptop. So the way of getting into a company is hacking a server that is exposed to the internet. Maybe that's the traditional one company has a website, you hack the website, you get into the network.
Yep.
We are in many ways we are beyond that. Not for everyone, of course. But another way to get into the company is by, like you said, sending a malicious link, malicious document, to get a foothold on the computer.
Yeah.
Then we're inside the network. Where we are now is that everyone needs to realize that we need to assume that this is the case, that someone can get in. We call it assume breach.
Right.
If you adopt an assume breach mindset, you assume that someone gets in. Kind of like if you put your gold into the safe in your house, you assume that someone that wants to steal the gold can get into the house. It could be cleaners, handyman, it could be the kids, friends, or just a burglar.
Yep.
So you add another layer. So what companies need to do is secure their internal network, and that's where they have a lot of work to do.
And it's totally possible
To
secure your
well, the security is not 1 and 0, true and false. Security is more a floating number. So it's kind of a bar. You should see it as a bar.
Okay.
If you have kids, if you have evil kids, you should create a bar that is high enough for the evil kids to not be able to jump over.
Okay.
But if you have evil giant, then they will be able to jump over your bar if you don't raise it to maximum level.
Okay.
So security is about, given your risk model, what your risks are. I mean, if you're a military,
yep.
If you're the military, or if you're a startup,
yep.
you have very different views on your risk and your risk appetite. Risk appetite is a good term.
Yep.
What's your appetite for risk? If I come here and I say, Michael, you don't have a home alarm, and you say, well, why should I have that? And you say something snarky to me, oh, I don't need that.
No,
then,
I can
that
say
means
that
your
it doesn't
risk.
matter because they have 15 minutes to do whatever they want anyway.
Yeah. So then you can say you have a risk appetite that is higher than mine when it comes to maybe that aspect of home security.
Yep.
The same goes for cybersecurity. So it's, yeah. So investing in, but I think the challenge is to know how much should we invest? What are our risks? And what I think should be clear for companies nowadays, that every company and government authority is at risk for a ransomware attack. The ransomware attack, the ransomware organizations, they are well funded, they are competent, and they attack everyone. I think that's a new thing as well, pretty new. That before, it's probably common that the companies say that, well, we don't really have anyone that want to hack us.
So, you mean, would it be expensive for a company to build those layers so they are secured from ransomware attacks? Is it expensive or is it impossible?
It's not impossible, absolutely not.
So is it expensive then? Or?
Yeah, I mean, what is expensive? I think if you look at development projects,
yep.
and when I talk to companies and they say, we need a penetration test for this web application, and maybe they think the price is high, but then they have 10 developers working full time for 2 years on this project.
Yep.
And then they think one consultant for 1 week is expensive. Well, maybe you think it's expensive, but is it? I mean, it's about priorities.
Yep.
Maybe it's better to have the security consultant do this work than having some other feature in the application. Yep. So I think security must come in earlier in the mindset, in the planning.
Do you think the most software development project doesn't have this in-depth security?
It varies very widely.
Yeah.
I mean, it's from where mature organizations have security champions in every development project. I mean, a developer that is like more concerned about security, has better education, is interested in security. Maybe a security team that is teaching all the development teams about security. External auditors or penetration testers like myself. Good processes and tracking everywhere to not caring about security at all.
Yep.
The most, and of course I don't meet the ones who don't care about security because they don't talk to me. But a lot of people, a lot of companies I talk to maybe are doing their first pen test. So especially those that I referred to before that maybe think it's too expensive. Maybe they're about to launch a website.
Yep.
Someone realizes, maybe we should do a penetration test on it. And then we need added funding because it was not included in the budget, in the plan.
Right.
But some people say it's the best way to get a security budget is to have a real incident. So I guess it's the same with as with a home security. If you have a burglar burglary,
Yep.
then maybe you realize that you should have invested in a home alarm or a better door or whatever.
Yeah. But
Uh,
I have at least 2 layers.
mhm.
So we had the front door
Yeah.
out on the street, and then my apartment door.
Yeah.
So 2 layers.
Yeah.
At least.
That's good.
Yep.
The front door down there is probably not that hard to get into.
No, that's quite easy. So the only thing you need to do some social hacking.
We call it tailgating. We did that in the TV series.
Yeah.
You stand outside looking like you belong or
Yeah.
on a phone call or something. And then when someone comes and opens the door, you just walk in.
Easy peasy.
Yeah, I've done that to big banks.
Right. Yep.
Not a problem.
Right. So back to the TV series. It was very good. You show the team of yours was showing loads of different situations or people and companies you hacked, but you never showed us how you did it.
No. Well, we didn't. That wasn't on our part, so to speak. I mean, that wasn't our job to decide. Our as in the hackers, the job to decide what was being in the final episodes. So the editors, I think they would be called the editors, the ones cutting the material. I mean, they had so many hours of material. And actually, we met them on the premiere of the TV series. We met 2 of them, but there were 3, and they were working for months with this material to boil this down, to cut this into stories or storylines that made sense, that were interesting, exciting, realistic, everything. So I guess when they see a screen full of letters and digits on a black background, they think this looks cool. We can have that a few seconds every now and then. But that's probably one part of it. But another one is this is for the everyday or the everyman. This is not about technically telling the audience what we did. Also, the companies that were involved, they should have a lot of kudos to them because they participated and were willing to show, to expose themselves to a certain extent. But of course, we can't show what kind of vulnerabilities we abused within their networks.
So one thing that was common through the TV series, each time you hacked, almost every time, you placed a computer, a small computer, on their network, hardwired into their network. Why did you do that? Wasn't it possible to do it through the Wi-Fi? Or
a few reasons. It's good TV.
Right.
So that's a term we learned pretty quickly. Max, the producer, he said, "This is good TV."
Right.
If he failed, we thought that this sucks, but he could be like, "That's good TV," because he liked when we failed and succeeded.
Right.
Creating the drama of being low and then going high, stuff like that. But so that was definitely something they wanted, and also we wanted. We realized that that's good TV, interesting, and that's one part of security. But also it's quick. If you quickly want to get into a network, you know that hacking the Wi-Fi will probably not work if they don't have a really bad Wi-Fi password, and that will take some hours. And it could be that you're hacking or you're trying to crack the Wi-Fi password at home. You have to go there, collect some data, and then go home and try to crack it. And maybe the next day you succeed or you fail. If you succeed, you go back, and then you can connect to the Wi-Fi.
You also had some time constraints.
Exactly.
At each job, or whatever you call it, like 3 days or something you had. Something
exactly.
Like that.
Every episode had 3 days allocated time.
Yeah.
Of course, we could sometimes prepare a little bit before, just like a day or so, if we had the energy.
But if you could hack the Wi-Fi, could you have done the same thing as you did with your your computer?
But let's take episode 2 as an example, Helsingborg Sem, where I walked in and placed the Raspberry Pi. There we tried to hack the Wi-Fi,
right?
As is said in the episode. But if I did hack the Wi-Fi, I would have to be either sitting outside the office and sitting there hacking, or placing some kind of device outside that connects to the Wi-Fi. Then you need a power supply, you need to find a power socket, or you need a battery, and you need to place your Raspberry Pi outside. So it's pretty effective to walk inside. It's of course high risk. So, and it could also be that if you connect to the Wi-Fi, succeed with that, it could be that you end up in a network where you don't want to be, like a guest network or something like that. And I've cracked a lot of Wi-Fi passwords in my days, so to speak, but it is pretty slow to crack Wi-Fi passwords. Different passwords, different encrypted or hashed passwords are slow or quick to guess, depending on algorithms. And WPA2 is pretty slow, which makes it difficult.
Okay.
So and also this smart home episode, they connected a small Raspberry Pi there as well. But I mean, he exposed his network in his garden. So that's a big weakness. And the other way, if they would go some other way, that would probably be attacking them via phishing or something, and that takes more work, more time, sending your phishing email, waiting, sitting there with your cyber.
You tried that with the influencer, and she didn't do what you thought she should have done.
Exactly. Therese Lingen, we threw everything at her. And she didn't. She like clicked most things, I think, but she never went further to log in.
No. So when you are on the inside the network, what's the first thing you do in that case?
I think every pen tester has a different like preference, but I want to have a domain account, any user's regular domain account.
So how do you get that?
There's a few ways, but one common way is to trick all computers in the network to talk to you.
All right.
If they talk to you, you can pretend to be a file server, for instance.
All right.
Then your computer will try to authenticate to me, log in to me. That's automatic Windows behavior. And then they will do a handshake, challenge response in NTLM, and I can get a hash.
All right.
So, and this hash will say in clear text domain name, username, so it will say maybe foocafe / Michael, and then a long hash. And then I can take this hash to my hash cracking machine, and I can guess in millions per second. And I have my hash cracking scripts set up in a pretty good way. So if you're one of those that create a password like most people do, one word, number, special character, I crack it in a few hours.
All right. So okay.
So then so that's my main priority number one, because then you can explore the Active Directory, the domain. You can look at all the users, all the groups. You can go maybe to the intranet. You can look at all the files that are open for every user on the network. So then basically you open up a big part of the network just by becoming a regular employee.
Right.
And then it's about, next step is finding more critical accounts, finding an IT person, a manager. It could be that you find file shares with a lot of files, and then some file on that file share has a password for some system account maybe on some server. It could be misconfigurations in Active Directory.
So so the best security for avoiding that is to have really long passwords.
That's a good idea. That's a good
Right.
idea for many things.
Right. So if you have a long password,
Yeah.
could you do something else? Could you damage something else in that case, or do you have to have? Do you need to have to crack a password to be able to do some harm?
No, it could
Or to
be
do-
it
yeah.
could be a server that hasn't been patched, for instance. So if you have an old Windows Server 2003,
Yep.
and it's running some line of business application, it can't be upgraded because the application must run on this old server. Maybe you can probably find an exploit to just attack that server and become administrator on that server.
All right. And
And
from
then-
that server, you could reach.
Exactly. If you're an administrator on one server, it's pretty easy to become administrator on other servers. There are different ways of doing that.
All right.
But just one interesting or one important way that a lot of people forget is if I own this Windows machine and someone logs on to that, I own them. I
Right.
own their identity. So if you're a server admin and you have the best password in the world, but you
Yeah.
log on to this server that I own,
All right.
that I've hacked, then you're
I'm fucked.
yes. Or I have your credentials.
How? Right.
Yeah, now we're getting technical. I can tell you.
Okay.
But that's how Windows works. So
Okay.
you expose your password hash to this
Yep.
server when you log on.
Right.
So I can read it from memory.
So is it more secure to use to have Linux servers instead, or Unix servers, or
They work in completely different ways. So that typically that particular attack doesn't apply to Linux. But it's you can't really say it's more secure or less secure with this operating system or that. A lot of people like to say, as an example, a lot of people like to say Mac is more secure. There are no viruses for Mac. But if you seen episode 1, you saw that the people coming into the casting situation, they had
Yep.
both Windows and Mac.
Yep.
And we had backdoors for both Windows and Mac.
Yep.
And the Mac backdoor worked perfectly fine because Mac has no antivirus protection.
isn't it built in the operating system?
Not on Mac, no. If I'm not missed anything or something really new. But
Right.
I have a Mac, there's no antivirus on that. And so the backdoor we built worked perfectly fine on the Macs, all the Macs. And I built a Windows backdoor, and I actually spent some time making sure it wasn't caught by Windows Defender, but under certain circumstances. And then when we used it for real, it was caught by every PC or every Windows machine.
All right. So
So
should we explain what a backdoor means?
So backdoor is some program malicious that you don't want on your machine, that is running in the background and that phones home, calls out to some kind of server. We call it a C2 server, like for command and control.
Yep.
So it's kind of like a TeamViewer agent or some other remote control software, but it's completely silent on the victim's end. So from my side, I can browse files, see the desktop, access the network, so I can probably jump from my computer into your network.
Yep.
If you're on the inside of a network. So that's what you typically want. You want to plant one or more backdoors on the internal network. Yeah. So, but I guess that depends. Back to your question about what types of hacks and how to protect yourself. I mean, it's up to the hacker, also the attacker, what kind of access he wants. Maybe he wants to access the data inside a Linux system.
Yeah.
Then he's doing everything to get to that system. Maybe Windows and Active Directory is not the way to get there.
So you said, right, yeah, Anne-Marie Lövinder from Internetstiftelsen always talks about password. So don't mess about. All right. So if you have a good password, and then you said layers, have your system set up in layers, so it's a firewall is not enough. I mean, for instance, Foucafe, if you hack Foucafe website, the only thing you will access in that case will be our events and people that have registered to the events, and then some few web pages, and a few users, so which is allowed to. That's it. We have nothing else on it. Everything else is on another server.
Yeah, exactly, and that's
and they are not linked. You're not able to reach that server from the website. It's impossible. There is nothing that link them together.
Yeah. So that's really good. Maybe that's more.
So is that a type of layer you're talking about?
I guess you could call it that. I would probably more call it segmentation or segregation.
Yeah.
To divide things up into smaller parts if they don't need to be on the same place.
Yep.
Instead of having one big server that does file, mail, web. Back in the old days, you created one Windows server. You published it to the internet. You had the website. I mean, this is a long time ago.
Yep.
You have your company website. You have the Exchange server with the emails, and then you have the file server. And then someone hacks your website, and they get all the stuff for your company.
You're fucked.
Yeah,
pretty much.
So instead of that, and now with the cloud, you can create a small server here with your website, and then on a completely different network segment or isolated, you create another server doing something else. And so segmentation, I would call that.
All right.
But because layers, I guess this is just terminology, but this is going through many layers to get into the valuable data in the middle.
But as you said, if you have access, if you have admin access to one server, it's easy for you to have access.
Yes.
So your layer system will be fucked up in that case.
Yeah, and this is, if you think about how Windows networks work, you typically have, you always have some administrators that have full permission to everything.
Yep.
If they also use that account, because they should have multiple accounts, but if they don't, if they only have one account, imagine they are logging into their laptop, reading their email using their account, and that account is God account. That's the main admin.
Yep.
If that's the case, that's really bad. So typically they would have two accounts, one regular user account and one admin account. But even in that case, if they should administer some PC, some help, they should help the economy department out with some PC matter like workstation, and they're doing that with an account that can compromise the entire organization. That's a case of too little segmentation.
Right.
But unfortunately, in how Windows works, they need to have like one account for each level of access. And that's what we see they don't have. They have maybe 2 or 3 accounts. So that means if I hack some old Windows server and you as a system administrator log on, I steal your account and you're probably domain admin. Or if you're not domain admin, you're admin on some other servers.
Yep.
And I jump over there.
Right.
So now I went from owning 1 server to owning maybe 10.
Yep.
And then I do the same on all these 10, waiting for someone else to get in there. And then I steal their accounts.
Okay.
And sometimes you have to do this over and over for days.
Yeah.
And I have done this on big banks. And eventually, you take over everything.
You badass. Yes. Shit. I think we should give some advice to people that also to protect your personal data, your social media or whatever. I think that could be a good opportunity to tell people, yeah, look out for this and think about that and so on. And the influencer was super good when you tried to hack her. It was so wow, so impressive. Yeah. So you succeeded to send her an email from a person that she thought she recognized, and then when she clicked on the link and it was a fake YouTube account that looked like her account, and she did not enter the password. She just
yeah, we did so many things to her.
Yep.
And we made up attacks as we went along.
Yep.
So we did the phishing, like you said, in both by email and in YouTube comments, like check this out, and then she came to like a login page. She didn't log in there. We tried to hack her Wi-Fi.
Yep.
I was sitting there with spy glasses on with camera built in, but she lives in a neighborhood with like hundreds of Wi-Fi access points. So that failed. We put a USB stick in her mailbox with malware. She didn't click that or open that. And then when she went to an interview with SVT, they told us, because of good TV, they said, we want you, Linus, to take a selfie with her. So when she exits the interview, we will be filming her on the street. Can you take a selfie with her? Just for good TV. And then, we thought then we can probably use that scenario, the selfie, to relate to the YouTube comment. So we can connect a real world situation to a digital encounter. And also when we were sitting outside, which is not shown in the episode, but when me and David is sitting outside waiting for her to come out from the cafe, or when she arrives, she parks. What do you say? She misparks. She parks where you can't park.
All right.
So we thought, that's fun. I'll walk out when she's in the cafe. I walk out and take a picture of the car, just for fun. And then later when she comes out, I take the selfie.
Yep.
And then we realized, like a day or two later, she parked wrong. Maybe we can use like a parking ticket social engineering thing. So we actually Ginny, I think it was Ginny, who built they bought the domain like Stockholm Parking or Parking Stockholm, something like that. Set up a parking website and sent her a text message. I said, with a picture of the car. I said, you have a parking ticket. Click here to pay it. And then it was like log in with Google, Facebook, or we thought, that's maybe normal. Maybe she'll do that. She's probably used to that. We hoped, but she didn't do that. And then we followed up with a phone call saying like, hello, have you paid your parking ticket? Or you haven't paid your parking ticket? Maybe you should do that. So, and she was like, I think she said, I paid it. Like something like that.
All right.
So we tried everything.
Sue me. All right. So as a private person, what... I mean, after this TV series, you have got some personal questions to help private persons to solve their. Someone is taking over my website or taking over my Facebook or whatnot. So what's your recommendation for people to avoid that shit happen?
This is same stuff everyone is saying. Good passwords, unique passwords on each important site, and then a password manager for the sites that are not that important. I don't mean that a password manager is not a good thing. I mean, I think passwords for your most important things I think is good to have in your remember.
Yep.
So remember the password for your password manager, for your email, maybe for Facebook if you use that, and then put all the other stuff in password manager and randomize the passwords. And then two-factor authentication everywhere on important accounts, and that two-factor authentication is SMS codes or an application. for codes.
Yeah.
It's good to think that if you're logging onto your computer and you have codes on your, if you get codes on your phone, you're entering something you know.
Yeah.
And then there's something you have that you also need to use. So if the attacker can guess your password, he can never, or it's very hard to get hold of your phone as well.
Yeah. Mm.
And actually, I've got the question: if I have a two-factor authentication, do I need a good password? I think you should have, but it's very hard to hack an account, I would say, with a bad password, even if you have, or if you have two-factor authentication.
Okay. Mm.
But there are, of course, other things you need to be aware of, like a general security awareness. Be conscious about emails arriving. Are they really aimed for me? Because a phishing email can get past a good password and a two-factor authentication. Imagine if you get an email and you click the link, and you're presented with a Google login, and you buy it, so to speak. You think it's legit. You enter your really good password. You get an SMS PIN code or SMS code. You enter the SMS code.
Then you're fucked.
But you entered it in the wrong website.
Yeah.
So then the evil site has triggered the SMS code with Google.
Yeah.
So they've taken your good password, sent it to Google. You get a text message, and you enter the code in the evil site, and then they send that to Google by automatically. Then they have logged into your account. So basically, never click any links. If you get an email saying you should do something, and what you should do is connected to one of your accounts, it's better to visit that page manually and see if you can do it there. If you know what I mean.
Yep. I know. That was a recommendation I've heard. I heard it like for 20 years or something. If you get a link, don't click on the link. You type it.
Yeah.
And see what happens. So.
Yeah, that's a good one. Probably if people are not aware, it's like if the link, what it says in the email, may not be the same as where the link actually goes.
Yeah. So, you could just check the domain the email is coming from and the domain that actually is written in the.
But it can be really tricky. Like in episode 2, I bought the domain helsingborgs.se, but instead of the L in Helsingborg, I.
Yeah.
And then when you send the email, you use uppercase I.
Yeah.
And it looks like a lowercase L.
Yeah.
So it's really hard.
Yeah.
To visually. Be 100%.
But if you type it, in that case you will type Helsingborg.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So in that case.
So if this is personal, you can do stuff like that. If it's in the private setting, but if it's in a company, you should probably have someone you can email and check because this could be like a corporate website you should visit. It could be that the email is coming from a business partner, but it's actually not, because it could be that the business partner has been hacked. I've seen that where actually my wife had that previously. She got an email from someone she regularly emails with, but it was actually a really complicated or really sophisticated Office 365 phishing attempt. So actually the link went to Office 365.
Right.
And into some document there, and in the document there was a link where you need to go, and that's when the phishing link, the phishing site came. Meaning that she got the email from a known person. The link was legit because the first link she clicked or could click, she didn't. But when I examined it, the first link was for Office 365 for real, but the next level was the phishing.
Okay.
And if you get something like that within your company, send it to IT. Ask, is this legit?
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you very much, Linus. I think we will finish the bottle without you guys. I think it's better for everybody. So yeah, cheers. Thank
Cheers.
you.
Oh, sorry, I drank before. Cheers.
See you next time.
See ya.